Happy Sunday, SMITE fans, and welcome back to another day of the SMITE Pro League, week number 7, day number 3, and we've only got 2 sets for you guys today in the SMITE Pro League. Before we get to that, though, I want to give a shout out to our good friends over at Prime Gaming for being the title sponsor of Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. If you don't already have a Prime membership, make sure to pick that up so that way you can get free shipping, music, movies, and more. All the great things that you were probably already going to be buying, that you can get that conveniently sent right to your doorstep. And then, if you link your Prime membership over to your Twitch account, you can get some Prime Gaming stuff, getting free games every single month with a new catalog of games, formulating itself out every single month, and free content for games that you were probably already playing. Thank you so much to Prime Gaming for being the sponsor of Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. I'm J-Mac. I got Charlie joining me on the desk, and man, Charlie, it's already 1 o'clock. What happened? Oh, that's right. We've only got 2 sets to play today. I'm sorry if you guys got here a little bit early for the SMITE Pro League. But don't worry, we're here now. We got 2 great sets to kind of close out your weekend with.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably better that they got here early because that means you're not going to miss anything because there's going to be some crazy action to be had. And if you know what, if you missed yesterday at this point, you might be thinking this could be, one of those sets that, you could have missed, the Valks versus Titans, but the Valks are heating up. The Valks are heating up as we get to check it out.
Yeah, looking at the schedule, if you missed yesterday, the Valkyries found their first set win of the phase up against the Oni Warriors. It's a 2-1 battle between them. And now today, the Valhalla Valkyries and the Tartarus Titans will be our first set of the day. And then we'll close it out with the Oni Warriors and the Olympus Bolt. And yeah, crazy sets yesterday, to be said at the very least. The Valkyries really were able to find their step up, really begin to find their groove in game number 2 up against the Warriors, had a very clean game number 3 to be able to find that win. And now they finally have that 0 out of their win column. Now they've finally been able to stamp a 1 down there. Sure, it doesn't affect their standings any. They're still going to be down at 8 just because everybody else has more wins than them naturally, but being able to get that little bit of momentum could help them in their matchup against the now tied for 3rd seed Tartarus Titans.
Yeah, you got to ride that momentum. I mean, whenever you have a win-loss like that, it's always a short memory situation where if you are going to go up against a loss, you just forget about that, focus on the next game, focus on your play style, and I think that's exactly what the Valks did. And given the fact that the Titans had such an easy set yesterday, I imagine their mindset's going to be a little bit different, right? Because, we did get to talk to them after the set. We talked to Layer specifically, and he was saying, it's not easy to play with a sub. We didn't, we didn't feel good, but we were like, we're winning. You know what I mean? Like, it was one of those situations where we don't feel good about the situation the Scarabs are in, but we came to win, and that's sort of the mindset they were having.
Yeah, and that was exactly what the Tartarus Titans did yesterday, was found that win. And game number 1 of that win, you can kind of attest a little bit of that over to SOT, the solo laner for the Tartarus Titans, and kind of why this team is really so difficult to pick and ban against is because there are so many things that so many of their players are utilizing right now. You think, okay, well, we're going to ban away Bellona. That's going to take away something from SOT. Psych, that's also something that CycloneSpin plays in the duo lane. Oh, we're going to ban away, or, maybe we'll just let Ullr through. Probably not the best idea because 3 players on this team, including SOT, has been consistently picking up and performing well on Ullr. And it really just makes this such a tough team to go into any kind of drafting phase against Trelly.
Yeah, in game number 1, SOT has the pop-off game on Ullr, and then immediately goes into like a full damage Cabrakan, which is just a completely different look, and it really didn't matter. Everyone's banning out Paul's E-set, but that also means that he's got a Hell in the back, which has been popping off as well. It's such a difficult team going into the picks and bans phase to try and figure out what your plan is, right? You have to be in that mindset. Before the game even starts, the mental gymnastics you're going up against a team like the Tartarus Titans it can't be easy. I don't envy the position that the Valks are in, but as we've already highlighted, I think they had a fantastic set yesterday, so I imagine they're going to be trying to ride that momentum as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, and we talk a lot about SOT, the wildness of his picks over in the solo lane, the wildness in general of the Tartarus Titans. I was mentioning just a moment ago how CycloneSpin was playing Warriors over in the duo lane as far as his picks are concerned. So it really does make it not just in the drafting phase against this team difficult, but also to play on field, because you just never know where these guys are going to go. You never know, is Layers going to put all of his pressure in mid to make sure that Paul gets a lead? Is he going to get that 1 kill for SOT and then let the solo lane run rampant? Or is he going to make his rotation over towards duo lane and let Cyclone and Aror kind of go crazy? Or is Layers himself just going to be the pop? I mean, he had a 14-2 game yesterday.
Yep.
That alone is enough to kind of ride that high of being able to be just the carry for the team no matter what.
Yeah, notably, the Titans were in a little bit of a weird spot. You talked about, how the fact that it was like SOT and CycloneSpin sort of switched roles in a sense where they were sitting in their lanes, but, CycloneSpin was trying out the Warriors. it wasn't working too much. Like, they found some game wins, but the set wins, I think, they really started rolling in once they figured out, back to their new style of draft, which, brings us up against the Valks, who, once again, you cannot stray away from the fact that they should be riding that momentum from yesterday. Game number 1 was a little bit rough, but after they bounced back, that shows so much resilience in their mental, and you got to highlight the gameplay from just everyone. It wasn't just one player that won that set. The whole team came together, and they looked so good.
Yeah, I mean, it started over in that solo lane. There was a lot of pressure thrown into Aquarius' lane to kind of get things going. But, I mean, it's hard not to talk about the dual lane, the jungle, the mid. Everybody on the Valkyries in yesterday's set specifically really stepped up to the plate and were really able to kind of bring the pain over to the Oni Warriors. Because, I mean, the Oni Warriors, like you mentioned, game number 1 was a stop. It was 19-0 to end the game out in like sub 25 minutes. Almost unheard of at this stage of play, seeing a game just be that absolutely dominant. And then turnaround game. I mean, you get this Ratatosker Morgan combo that comes from Benny and Kirmi. That absolutely explodes throughout the early and mid game. So by the time late game came through, the Valkyries had too big of a lead. And then game number 3 was just probably the best farming that we have seen from the Valkyries this entire season. I mean, they were up like 7K by like the 10-minute mark with 3 kills on the board at that point. Absolutely wild performance out of the Valkyries yesterday. We're going to talk to yet another member of the Valkyries, Benny Q, the mid laner, standing by for our pregame interview. Thanks for coming by, Benny Q. Yesterday, you guys got y'all first win of the day. We talked about Gamma. You guys are real excited about that. Is that kind of the same echoed sentiment for you? Kind of really feeling good after getting that first big win?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been so long, and our mentals were pretty bad, I would say, leading into almost nearly every week. And it's just nice knowing that we like are growing and like kind of catching up from that set. But I just want to keep it consistent. I want to make sure that we can do it against every other team as well and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And going up against a team like the Tartarus Titans, we were talking about a little bit on the pre-death segment with it, which is this team feels like it's one of the harder teams in the league to kind of draft against, just because you never really know exactly what these guys are going to be picking and banning for which player. Does it make it? Is that kind of the same thoughts for you guys against this team?
I feel like there's certain gods they like to play, and it's more of just where they go. So it's not as difficult, but it does make it interesting.
And what's it kind of going like against Paul in that mid lane specifically? Because sometimes you'll get the Paul that likes to run it down, but more often than not, we kind of see the more passive kind of laning face little Paul. So what's it like going up against a player like him?
I'm indifferent, whatever.
Indifferent too.
Yeah.
Just another day out in the mid lane for Benny Q and the Valkyries. Well, good luck in your set, Benny. Thanks for coming by for the pregame interview. Indifferent to say the least. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it is sometimes. Solo lane, when we talk with those guys, sometimes it's the, what was the variety called? The handshake lane, just because nothing's probably going to happen for the first 10 or so minutes. You kind of just let the farm come as it goes. You maybe see a gank or two. But mid lane, we do see typically a lot more action through. That's where the junglers are always making their rotation paths, whether they want to go to solo, whether they want to go to duo lane. The Valkyries, I think an important statement there from Benny Q was, it's just been tough for these guys. I mean, it's hard coming into a league. It's hard coming back week after week, seeing set loss after set loss, and finally finding that first one, and a big one at that, against, what is it, the number 4 seed now, Oni Warriors. That's not something that's easy for teams to do. I mean, we saw it with the Scarabs being able to take down the Camelot Kings, who were the number 1 seed, the Scarabs being the 7th seed. So even with all the losses that come through, finding that one big set win is so important for so many of these teams, especially when you're on the lower half of the seeding.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the mental victory has to be massive here, and I like the mindset from Benny. Like, we are happy about that win, but the idea is to keep moving forward and keep learning, keep trying to improve their gameplay, and I imagine that's what all of the Valks are trying to do at this point. Like, you want to still get active in the early, as they always have done, but that farming that we saw, the farming that you just highlighted, 3 kills, 7K gold lead, that's got to be the goal for essentially every game they play.
Well, we'll see if the Valkyries can bring back that momentum from yesterday into today's set. Game number 1 between the Titans and the Valkyries starts off with the picks and bans. The first one that's going to be taken away is the Dodgy. This has now become a much more consistent ban kind of across the board, Charlie. I mean, Dodgy was something that we were really only seeing with a few players in the league, and then it started going to, okay, maybe just the top end of play. Now we're kind of seeing this god trickle to being at all stages of play, at all every single one of the teams in the SPL seem to have maybe kind of a fear mentality of what this Daji is capable of.
Yeah, no doubt. The Daji Xing Chen combo can certainly be lethal. A lot of beads burning, so it looks like the Tartarus Titans are just going to remove that from play. And focusing out Paul, as E said, definitely a smart strategy given the way that the Titans like to play through Paul on this pick. You're essentially forfeiting all objective aggression because circle protection is just a catch-all of, you know, there's no way you guys can even step up. You can try to fight, but you're not getting the objective. Like, there's no way. So I think that's definitely a smart look as well, and taking away SOT's Ullr in the process. Now the question is, because again, we already highlighted how difficult it is to pick and ban against this team. You know, Paul's God Pool runs so deep at this point. He was double stacking hell and looking fantastic doing it. I was going to say, are you going to let through, you know, Aror, who we haven't even highlighted that much at this point, the Khepris, the Yemojas, and it does look like the Yemoja will be taken away, but that does leave open this Chernobog, who has fallen off a little bit in the picks and bans, but still extremely highly contested, still catches a fair bit of bans, and when the Titans can grab it, they're going to take that Chernobog.
I mean, sitting at 33 games and a nearly 70% win rate also boasts just to the strength of this god.
Oh,
so
yeah.
the Tartarus Titans will pick that one up first. So Yemoja, Iset, Ullr, Daji, Bellona, and Xing Chen banned away by the Tartarus Titans. So now it goes over to the Valkyries. And I'm curious as to what kind of playstyle we'll see from the Valks, because yesterday they brought out this kind of stranger, at least mid lane pick for the Valkyries. BenQ went back onto the Terra. Didn't work out so well. Game number 2, though, we saw Morrigan Ratatoskr come out from the Valkyries, and that looked phenomenal. That was one of the best combos that we have seen from this team as of late. And so I'm wondering, are we going to see that same kind of Valkyries play? Are we going to see Khepri and BenQ kind of tag team up with those same kinds of drafts, or do we see something a little bit different? For now, a little bit different, but we've been seeing a lot of Cabrakan at least going over to the wave Gamma, but with that new Fighters Mask start that we have been seeing, Trelly, this could maybe be a shakeup again.
Yeah, I actually really like what the Valks have done here. They didn't get baited into the Khepri grab. I don't think that's a style that Gamma likes to play. He likes to get active. He's not one to sit back and farm with the team. I mean, he can, and every support does have that play style, but trying to get aggressive seems to be what the Valks want. So they're just going to forego that pick, let Aror take that one into the duo lane if he so chooses, and they will grab it right away, and just get all-out early aggression. That's what Cabrakan brings. That's what Osiris brings, and you also let open the Cupid. That's an 86% win rate for a reason. Cupid is extremely strong at the moment, has a great matchup into Chernobog, has a great matchup into Erlang Shen, and oh yeah, he also has a great matchup into Khepri.
It's not going to be easy for those 3 gods on the Tartarus Titans into this pick specifically. Huang going to be the next ban for the Valkyries. That's something that BenQ has been defaulting to a lot for the Valkyries in their sets of play, so seeing that one banned away tells me that maybe BenQ could be taking this Cabrakan, could be holding on to his pick for last. That's something very common, at least with the Valks in times of past. And they're not believing that this Cabrakan could be going over to BenQ, that at least being the Titan. So they'll ban away Poseidon and the Morrigan, and then Raven, the final ban from the Valkyries. And it kind of feels like Raven's maybe not as impactful as he once was, Charlie. We haven't seen that same level of oomph from this god that we were seeing in weeks past.
Yeah, I think the Raven build has fallen off a ton. Now that you can't get Sigil and Lono's Mask, there's just no reason to really build him that way. There are still different avenues to build this Raven. We've seen the Death's Toll start, the Death's Embrace. It has been some prominent building late game, but I'm curious about what the Valks are going to here. It seems like they pre-picked those Osiris just in case the Paul Hell goes through. Well, you know, we know that Paul doesn't really care about playing Hell into the Osiris, but if he does, you know, the 100% anti-heal is going to hurt. Erlang Shen's not going to appreciate it as well, so just a smart pick there, going to get you some early pressure. Now we get to see how this draft really does sort of peter down to, because I'm seeing a lot of aggression in the early for sure, but Cupid is just going to be sitting in lane, and it looks like even more early protection shred with that Stinger, just trying to win out in the early. I mean, I expect to see the Valks come out swinging. That's what they're showing their hand, but it's a darn good draft.
I mean, AMC and Cupid, 2 good hunters, a lot of zone control from Cupid, a lot of single target damage from the Amuz and Cobb. And still some ambiguity between the Osiris and the Cabrakan. Not sure entirely yet if this is going to be Khepri on Osiris or Aquarius. Is this going to be Aquarius on the Cabrakan, or is it going to be Gamma on the Cabrakan now? I don't imagine this AMC is going anywhere but mid. We have seen it solo in the past. I guess technically it could go into the Hunter role and throw Cupid over in the mid, but
that's the
very
very
unlikely considering how well Wowie has been playing this Cupid. And as I think you're right to highlight the Whoopid as it's been coined by Gamma specifically. So now for the Tartarus Titans,
Oh yeah.
it will be Hell. So you're right. No fear from Paul to play Hell into a 100% anti-heal god like the Osiris. And then an Atlas.
I won't lie to you. I just faced SOT's Atlas solo last night, and he farmed my whole team. So I don't know if he was
including you.
I don't know if he was preparing for this moment or he was just like farming us all. But we're about to see a hybrid Atlas run through, and it's not gonna be fun, man. I got hit by the ult from solo lane. I was in mid, and he just sent it over, and I was like, I am getting bullied from across the map. So it does look like a similar style of draft in the sense of very tanky Erlang, Shen, Khepri, Atlas, triple tank squad. You've got some prod shred with that gamma ray burst and the Khepri as well, but we finally get to see the Chang'e come through, which did have a decent matchup in the solo lane. So it could be, man, this draft, the team fight presence alone is what I'm looking at. Just look at all the CC. You're getting hit by the Stinger. You got Fields of Love, Waxing Moon on top of all of the Cabrakan damage. This is going to be an intense 5v5 that we get to witness.
Yeah, I mean, the Chang'e is something that Aquarius brought out yesterday over in the solo lane. While it didn't have the most impressive slash line of 1-2-6, what it did give them was a ton of early game pressure. I mean, for like the entire first 7 or so minutes of the game, Aquarius had Nika pushed under that tier 1 tower. The Kleena wasn't able to do too much up against it. But now as we kind of get a look at these drafts, we kind of get to see, you know, how maybe some of the team fighting goes through. Do you kind of have, you know, one side or the other that you favor a little bit more when it comes to the late game, like 25, 30-minute team fight stage, Trelly?
Yeah, I think looking at the Titans draft, it's going to be very difficult to fight into that. I mean, there is so much dive as well as CC that you have to worry about. I know I already highlighted the fact that the Valks have a ton of CC, but it just seems like the Titans have all-out dive on top of a Khepri. Scarab's Blessing is always going to be an issue, but we know that the Valks have no problem playing this Cupid into the Khepri. You can sort of forego the Fields of Love until that res comes through, and then you get a free double ult onto the Khepri, or you can use it to force out and just chase down if you really need to. So, I mean, looking at both these drafts, it looks like they both got some decent early pressure. I mean, look at the junglers, and then as well as that early pressure, they've covered their late game bases as well. So it's going to be an all-out brawl for sure.
So Atlas solo for SOT. I mean, we've seen what Atlas can do over in the dual lane, get some pressure for your Hunter, you know, get some early kind of wave out there, but Atlas not really known for his wave clear when it comes to kind of by himself. I mean, how does the build path kind of go? Do you think that it's going to be a Fighter's Mask into a Rangda style of Atlas? Or do you think it's going to still be a little bit more bruiser heavy, like Conduit Gem, things like that early?
Yeah, I'm expecting the Conduit Gem. You can max the dash and just run through the wave just fine if you want to. Atlas is a brawler, like really. He does a ton of damage if you can get online, if you can get ahead. He does have some difficult gank paths, but he's got the slow immunity, so whenever Osiris comes, he'll just zoom away. It's not an easy lane opposition for sure.
Gonna be a fun solo lane matchup between the Atlas and the Chang'e. It's gonna be a fun matchup between the Tartarus Titans and the Valhalla Valkyries. We'll throw it over to game 1 with Gormizer and Mifflin.
And I'm excited for this one, Mifflin, because yesterday we got to see what felt like a monumental occasion, right? First off, the rarity of the Valkyries win screen. It hadn't shown up since like week 2, so it had been a long time since we got to see that. And then, of course, finally a full set win for this team, which hadn't happened. I mean, technically it Masters against some of the SCC teams, but against another SPL teams since Phase 1 week 4. And so they've been looking pretty good. Feels like they figured out what they want for their style. And a lot of that to me, like you look at this, is like Cupid, Cabrakan kind of coming into the meta, but also Aquarius, like Chang'e, nobody else is touching them, unless it's Zeros and EU. Nobody else is playing Chang'e. And it feels like they've kind of figured out their identity.
Let's talk about the Valkyries' trajectory throughout the entirety of this year. They had started as the team that would just get leads early, and then it would start to peter off. That was the identity of the Valhalla Valkyries. Yeah. Since then, they try and rectify that by going for more standard style of compositions. That didn't work out very well. They kind of lost the ability to find that early lead, and we're still getting outscaled come late game. Seems like the Valhalla Valkyries, back to their old ways, have just drafted pressure all the way across the map, and are going to try and look to play throughout that early game to transition themselves into that mid to late. And it worked out for them yesterday, so I'm not going to argue against it today. I'm sure with all the experience that they've had in the SPL so far this year, those issues we had seen in weeks 1 through 4 of Phase 1, where they couldn't quite get transition those leads into an objective, I'm pretty sure they're getting a lead, they're getting an objective.
We'll see. I don't think anything, is getting crazy. Happen to hear me here. Ends up going Totem of Coup there, if it matters to you. The Valkyries pick that one up. 80% of the Titans roster have played the gods that they're on, and it's not anything surprising. The only other one is this Atlas solo, which we're already seeing pull back Aquarius. There's going to be the pin from the Erlang. Not quite enough damage to kill off the Chang'e. But that's going to be something that you have to deal with. And admittedly, eventually Aquarius is just going to be able to kind of two-step his way literally out of that. But for now, and throughout this game, this Atlas feels like it could be pretty impactful.
Yeah, the Atlas has deceptive damage. I had been begging for Atlas solo since his release. I had given up on my crusade to see him over in the solo lane because nobody was picking it, but the damage output is just incredibly high. Expect to see him max out that dash. It's going to be the bulk of his wave clear. Has really good rotation presence. Trelly brings up that semi-global ultimate, just the ability to get involved all the way across the map. And it's a massive ultimate. It's not exactly difficult to land if you're just aiming towards that mid lane. So I'm expecting big things from SOT. Scaling the name of the game. You're going towards Warlock Staff. Going to be a little while until he's able to match the pressure that Chang'e is going to put out.
Yeah.
Levels 1 through 3, you're feeling just fine. Probably going to hit an inflection point around level 5 through 9 where Aquarius is going to have a pretty distinct advantage, but should turn around with the help of a jungle.
Well, he wants to get, well, never mind. He looked like he wanted to get aggressive. And they fall back. It's going to be the blue buff secure for the Valkyries. And then just a coup pick up for the Titans. So not being super aggressive. Then again, not maybe that uncommon for Guardians over here. And it's like you said, even though you can clear decently well, as we just saw, it might not be the most, well, not the easiest thing to try and fight into with the Chang'e on the other side. It gets really interesting because I think both junglers have a trajectory, follow a very similar arc in the early game, can get hands-on. But I can't also count the amount of times that, you know, we've seen an Osiris, Erlang wait until level 9, 10, 11 before they really start truly getting involved. So we'll have to keep our eyes there. It's the mid lane matchup, and not just the matchup, but just in general those gods. The protection shred that you get from the Amus and Cobb versus the healing that you're going to get on the other side. It's going to make things interesting. SoloOrTroll is leveling that first ability. Which admittedly is a little different, because that's the thing. When Atlas came out, the whole point was like, hey, yeah, this is not a Guardian meant to go over in soloing. Like, that was the whole thing with his scaling.
Yeah, I suppose leveling the first ability into Chang'e makes sense. Your 3 so telegraphed, pretty easy for her to avoid the bulk of your damage. The 1 a bit easier, and if you're, I suppose, allowing it to be a handshake lane, that's going to be your superior clear. Excited to see how SOT goes with the rest of this level priority.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he goes like 3 points into the 1, then switches up to the third ability. It's just really about when he wants to get involved in those fights and when he needs that burst damage available to him. I'm keeping my eyes on Khepri, who's set up a much better pace than what we've seen from Layers so far. Has been sitting comfortably at level 5 for a moment now. Layers just ticking over. These two, very explosive gods, very volatile picks. Both have been considered feast or famine. I think one or the other is going to break that dam pretty soon. But as you said, some of these guys like to wait it out a little bit longer, neither one having finished up that first tier item, and neither one having a true dedicated lane that just looks easy to gank might slow down their play.
Well, and that makes things interesting because the further this scales in, the more I want to look at like the hell, right? Because all of a sudden you've got better healing, more survivability, more mana to work with. Like Paul right now, kind of a slow god that can deal a good amount of damage, but you're going to see their health bar disappear to do it. Whereas a late game hell, especially with the Warlock Staff, you're going to have a mana bar, a health bar that really contributes to longevity in the fights. And that's where, you know, the desk had mentioned the Osiris with the anti-heal on his ult, but specifically I think Chang'e comes into the equation. Some anti-heal on her dances, on her 3 there. So she's going to be able to heal up the team, keep that hell from healing everybody a little bit. It feels like that matchup, you know, used to be huge in the solo lane, used to be like the, hey, I'm going to pick hell, okay, cool, I'm picking Chang'e, I'm the counter matchup. We haven't seen that pretty much at all over the last couple of years. Like, Chang'e just hasn't been able to hold their own, but like late game fights, especially with what we saw Aquarius do yesterday, do you think it's going to be able to like at least keep up?
It should be able to apply the anti-heal.
I
can promise you that 100%. The consistent damage output is high, but the burst potential of Chang'e is what's really made her fall off a bit. Doesn't really match some of that mage damage that we see from the rest of the class.
Khepri gets aggressive, pulled in thanks to SOT, and tossed right back to Layers, but there's the rotation. Gamma throws up the walls, gets the kill. Now Khepri has to stay alive, jumps onto Aror, and with a little bit of assistance, they're going to be able to turn this into a 2-for-1, but it's not over yet. Gamma has to get away. The pull back from SOT's going to be good. That's going to be another kill picked up for the Titans. 2 for 2, jungle and support on both.
Yeah, a little role exchange there between both these teams, but it's the Valhalla Valkyries who come out ahead pretty handily. on the tail end of it. Would have liked to see the Valkyries keep up their presence. Don't allow Paul and Cyclone to clear out that Scorpion. Could have been a pretty decent fight for you there, but instead reset themselves back to neutral and say, hey, a win's a win, and we're not going to leave it up to any sort of chance. And the entire time that Cyclone's getting involved in that team fight on the right-hand side, well, wow, he's just farming up. So even with a couple of assists going to the Chernobog, it's actually Cupid with the lead.
And that's frightening to think of. I mean, Cupid, like the last couple of days, Cupid has been popping off. And to some people, you know, Gamma in the interview seemed very happy. Then again, they just won, so of course he was going to be happy. Netroid the other day had tweeted, and it was like a man, I can't believe I had to play Cupid, things like that. So mixed opinions on whether or not they're happy about it, but he's here, and he seems to be doing well. Gamma, a little aggressive, but a little late on the walls there to lock down Aror. Can they get the stinger? Auror's trying to body block it. Is not going to be able to successfully do so. Khepri, though, jumps in. One more auto is all they need. They get the support. The slows are there, but Layers is going to get on out of this one. It's a good kill, despite the fact that it didn't feel like it was going to happen.
Yeah, I couldn't come up with a single reason why Aurora would step back up there. I mean, not a whole lot of kill potential. Paul's completely so you're not really looking for the fight. Just a strange decision from the support of the Tartarus Titans to try and re-engage on that left side of the map. I mean, Scarab's Blessing was pretty close to coming off cooldown, so I think maybe he was just not too concerned, but clearly should have been.
Gamma finds Layers in the jungle. Khepri has the tether. Tether gets the stun. Unfortunately, there's just one turtle form, and that's all it takes to get Layers out of there. Little heal from Paul, and they get to erase that. But it goes to showcase, I mean, you mentioned this. The Valks were strong at getting early game leads. And now they're picking drafts that are strong at getting early game leads and in companion with their playstyle. And they're just looking for that. I mean, you said pressure, like they're looking for kills, they're going for invades. They've got themselves 2,000 gold already in the pocket. Feels like a really good start for the first 8.5.
It is. The Valkyries have decided to draft to their strengths, and, well, when you are compounding your strengths like that, it does tend to work out for you. 2,000 experience and gold to the Valhalla Valkyries, and we're only about a minute away from the Pyromancer respawning. Aqua has been holding his own in lane very, very well, actually mirroring the build of SOT. I would imagine we see the Valhalla Valkyries group up pretty significantly around the Pyro. You're forcing a fight on the side of the map that is opposite Chernobog, which is less than ideal. Of course, CycloneSpin has the ability to join that engagement at a moment's notice, but as long as the Valhalla Valkyries are playing safely there and they're willing to slow play it, they've got similar levels of sustain to the Tartarus Titans and have got the ability to just wait it out and have Wowie farm up if the fight starts to look sour.
I think a lot of the big question marks, again, we've seen the Titans play a majority of this draft, and I think it cannot be understated how irritating a 9 turns Blessing plus the rest of this comp can work together as they're chasing down Gamma now. Layers throughout the ult. There's the taunt onto Gamma. They pulled him and surrounded him. Walls thrown up, but that's not going to get you out of there. Nice 3-man stun, but it's a small consolation prize. Costs Gamma their life, and the Titans are able to get aggressive. Ultimately, though, mid camps are the only thing they can go for. There's not even been a Pyromancer spawn yet, so they aren't able to pull a big neutral objective yet.
I mean, it's about 5 seconds away from spawning, as is Gamma, so could stick around
Layers is hanging
for the Pyromancer if you so choose. I wonder what's going through Gamma's head there. Like, there are 5 guys in my back camp at 9 minutes in, and it just worked for the Tartarus Titans. CycloneSpin again showing the strength of that global presence. Titans do attempt to pull out the Pyromancer, but the Valhalla Valkyries maintain presence on this side of the map, just enough to dissuade the veteran squad from actually looking towards the objective. So it's a pick and a back camp to the Tartarus Titans, but again, the entire time, Wowie's just farming up, finished up his Atalantis bow, could even start the rotation over the right side if he so chooses. Wouldn't even fall too far behind. I don't know, this Cupid's in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I'm excited to see when Cupid can join the fight. Like you mentioned, Chernobog's jumped in here a couple of times. Obviously, Khepri has. It looked like they wanted to get a little bit more done here. The Trebuchet gets a couple of shots off on the tower for the Valkyries, but not quite enough to make it feel fully threatened here. A lot of this presence so far in this game has been, cool, can Gamma or Khepri choose a fight? If yes, the team has backup. Otherwise, there hasn't been too much going for them. With Wowie joining in, especially if you're looking towards Gold Furies, anything like that in the future, Fields of Love feels like it's going to be very impactful, even though it might not have the same global rotation power that a Chernobog brings.
But the Tartarus Titans have got answers to Fields of Love. I mean, Trelly brings up the really good point of you just wait out Scarab's Blessing and all of a sudden you're getting a 2-for-1 ultimate wherever Khepri is standing.
Yep.
Or Paul's got a pretty easy time lining up a cleanse in those scenarios as well. So I'm thinking the Tartarus Titans sure will struggle individual picks, but as far as the team fight, have got good answers. Speaking of, the Valhalla Valkyries find an answer. Just pull the Gold Fury. You don't want to fight on the opposite side of the map where Chernobog can get involved. Go ahead, take the larger of the 2 neutral objectives. In trade for Pyromancer, a trade the Valkyries would love to take.
I was wondering if Aquarius was going to get there in time. Just looking for the ult, right? Long range, you're not using it too heavily anywhere else. Maybe. Could have been a lot. CycloneSpin goes in on BQ in the mid lane. Scarab's Blessing is there, and that is going to be just enough in terms of shielding, just enough health there for CycloneSpin to get out of there. Almost killed off and left. Almost killed off in mid. Stays alive, but loses his tower.
Yeah, the instant stinger from Benny there was just perfectly timed. Cyclone was just going to try and dash his way out of the tower. Fortunately, Aror in range with that safety net, able to make sure his ADC makes it out alive. We had thought it was Gold Fury for Pyromancer. Turns out it was Gold Fury plus Tier 1 tower for Pyromancer, so an even larger win for the Valhalla Valkyries. And this team, speak of riding the momentum, man. They are looking real good right now in a very good position to maintain this lead. Not much to do on the map for a little while. It's a bit early to look towards the Fire Giant, but I don't know, group up, force some fights around mid, maybe pressure this Tier 1 tower here, or just rest on your laurels for a moment. I think the Valhalla Valkyries have essentially got free play of the field as of now.
Yeah, it's just trying to figure out where do you want to put the next set of pressure. Maybe in the jungle over here. At least that's the choice for the Titans. Yema not going to get pulled in. Walls get dropped, though, so an ult for nothing on the other side feels pretty solid. And the Titans are able to get a little aggressive. And that's the clapbacks that we've been able to see. A little bit of aggression on the right-hand side, usually around this Scorpion where they've been setting up, whether it's to invade some back camps and look for a kill, or to find something a little more. Pin's going to grab Aquarius. That's going to be immune, but the beads still have to be used. Locked down, chased under the Tier 1. Aquarius is taking a ton of damage. The ult from Sot is going to be good enough to get the kill. They invest, but they get the payoff.
Yeah, Aqua had disengaged properly there. Lands the ultimate on 2, multi-man stun, was able to walk himself out of there, 6 around to apply that damage. By the time Aurora's root had connected, that was the end of Aqua's life.
Cyclone is going to eat the heart bomb no matter what. Half his health taken while Wowie is just fine. Tier 2 on the other side is getting pressured out. Tier 2 in mid is getting pressured out. Tier 2s across the board are threatened. Hear me, the only one defending over on right. 3-man tether, but it's not going to find the stun. Instead, pulled in, leaped over the wall. Pin just a little short of being able to find Kierme. He's going to get out of there. Tier 2 in mid going to go down. The Titans lose some of their pressure there, but they get the Tier 2 in right on the Valk side and at least keep the gold balanced in a little bit.
Well, as far as map state, that's a Valk's win again. The towers in mid just much more valuable. Chernobog actually ulting forward. He's alone for a while.
And he's going for BQ. BQ's got Gamma. Gamma doesn't seem to want to take this fight. There's Layers. Wall a little too late. Blink was good. Layers is moving forward. BQ has some protection. Stinger, though, is going to be on the ground. Kierme left alone. No leap to get out this time. And the Titans swarm him as 5 and get the kill.
I understand that Benny's concerned about the rotation, right? He's thinking to himself, why would Cyclone be solo ulting me here? He knows that I've got my support nearby. Must have some enemies on his heels, but you're level 15 to the level at the time 13 Chernobog. Stinger was available. You gotta think there was some turnaround potential.
Just like
immediately, just like blow him up. It doesn't take a whole lot of time for AMC to deal that damage. Instead, trepidatious play from the Valhalla Valkyries mid laner may have cost them a bit on the map. Greater Scorpion taken by the Tartarus Titans, but Fury, Pyro still both down. It's about as much as the Titans could hope for.
Farm has been going great for the Valkyries, though. You know, kills have been back and forth, but 4,300 experience, 3,500, pushing 3,600 gold. Feels pretty solid for 15 minutes in. But we've mentioned this in the past. You know, about 5 minutes, 6 minutes from now, the 3,000 doesn't feel as great, right? It's still better than you know what we've seen. 2,000 at 20 minutes doesn't really mean as much, but you got to be able to do something with it while you have this lead. And it seems like the Titans are starting to respond in kind to where the aggression from the Valkyries have been. We have a Fury spawning up in just a few seconds, 30 to be exact, and then we've got the Pyromancer that's going to be shortly after that. Valkyries are going for some vision, or at least trying to. But it doesn't seem like anybody's looking for the fight just yet. Aror, even though he's alone, don't want to try and pull him. Meanwhile, we've got second relics across the board. Supports just hit level 12. They've all picked that up. You know, you've got a Bracer. If you're looking at Aror on the other side, you've got the Cursed Ankh, the Blink now for Gamma. That feels really good as a combo. But whether or not we'll get to see it truly react the way that they want. I mean, the Titans have just been swarming individual players.
Yeah, I want to see the 5-on-5 engagement for the Valhalla Valkyries. Group up on the Fury, force the fight, and if the Tartarus Titans want to retreat, best case scenario retreat for them is towards that tier 2 on left.
Ooh, good lockdown. Gets 2 people in the ult for Gamma. Aror gets out of there. No one uses their ult. Cleanse from Paul's going to be on cooldown for a little bit, but it doesn't seem like the aggression is there. You wanted the 5-on-5, and it seems like they're trying to find it. Layers is the one that goes in. 2-man taunt, but immediately burned down. Scarabs' blessing gets him out of there alive. Khepri chasing him down, gets the leap, has the anti-heal, and Wowie gets the kill. The Valkyries looking to step forward against the Titans. Stun good on Aror. There's the heart bomb as well. The damage should be enough to get them out of there. Only Fury pulled. Atlas is still hanging around. No ult for SoloOrTroll here. It's going to be just the damage. Valkyries get the Fury, and they're looking for a little bit more. Sot pulls in Gamma. Gamma thrown to the Sharks, and Sot's going to be able to find the kill. Stinger pulled away from the Valks, but they're going to cut their losses and get out.
You know, I wonder if the Valkyries could have kept up their chase after finding the pick onto Layers. Allowing the Tartarus Titans to reset and heal could cost them.
Oh, it's going to cost them a lot so far. Khepri's 1 hit away. Cyclone dashes in but isn't able to find the auto. Aquarius and Benny have enough damage to thwart that. So close to finding even more in their favor, I think, for the Titans. Sot's not stopping. He comes in and just strips BennyQ of his beads. The rest of the Titans looking to push up mid. They're rotating over towards the right. Pyromancer available, mid camps, everything on this side. An advantageous position for them with the backs that had to just come through from the Valks.
Valkyries still hovering nearby. Could start the rotation in, but with no vision around that entrance to the jungle. Not really willing to step forward. Has to send in Aquarius first, so Wowie and Benny just spend their time waiting it out in mid. Pyromancer will go to the Tartarus Titans to close up a bit of that gold gap that establishes yet again, but with the pacing of the game as it's been, every single trade has favored the Valkyries. Every single time it's been a neutral objective one way or the other. The Valkyries pull ahead and now pull the Fire Giant. Layers spots it out.
Yeah, they're pulling it, and they keep it going. Layers
it's going
falls
quick.
Back as Gamma's looking for the stun, finds the stun, and it's getting burned down. Sot's here. Titans take the Fire Giant away from him, and now they're moving forward, chasing down Aquarius, chasing down BennyQ, and forcing the Valkyries to rethink their aggression. There's no tier 2 here. The Titans made sure of that, and Layers gets a 2-man taunt. Fields of Love is good to peel. Scarabs' blessing keeps Layers alive for now, but there is the turnaround. Kills for Wowie starting to roll through. Only get the 1. Layers able to get out a little bit earlier, but the rush forward, the siege from the Valkyries, they want a little bit more to make up for their trouble. That's 2 in this fight, and still looking for more.
That's a blink forward from Khepri, applies a slow to Paul. Paul's got enough damage to return, doesn't land any of his abilities. Khepri can no longer keep up the chase. All that movement speed that Hell's got should be enough to peel her out. The Tartarus Titans steal the Fire Giant on a risky 50-50 coin toss from the Valhalla Valkyries and decide, you know what? We want your lunch money and we also want to eat your lunch, so we're going to chase you to your own Phoenix. Gotta think the Titans could have just, I don't know, walked away, back to base, grouped up, started pushing down these towers
cool.
instead.
Fire Giant.
Now they've only got Fire Giant on 3. I'm not sure that their siege is so strong. We'll expect to see them go for it at least, though.
Ooh, BennyQ and CycloneSpin, they're going back and forth. BennyQ's a little bit lower health. The crit's ringing true, but not enough. Cyclone gets the 1v1, kills him off. Maybe puts him in his place. The egg is not enough to keep Benny around for this one, and little moments like that are changing everything. I'm more impressed. I mean, not only getting that kill, Layers getting out alive in that last fight, even though he's getting blown up at the beginning of each of these. It's small things that the Titans have been able to do, but you know, we mentioned it about 5 minutes ago. It was, what, 3,600 gold, still hovering around that area. It's going to start skewing towards the Titans here as they start to siege some of these towers.
Tier 1, Tier 2 should be pretty easy to pick up. Benny's still 20 seconds on the respawn, and even when he does respawn, no Aegis available. Expect to see the Tartarus Titans clear out this Tier 2, then start to work their way over towards that left-hand side of the map. Sure, they're closing up the gold, but you got to spend it to really see it reflected in the power. Valhalla Valkyries, though, 3-stack on the Tier 2 and mid, enough to keep away the Tartarus Titans. With CycloneSpin on split push duty, I suppose not having your ADC means that you can't really fully commit. but you got to create space for them, and the only way to do it is to generate threat on the map. So the Tartarus Titans will reassume the position in mid.
Gamma blinks forward, finds nothing with that one. Khepri also trying to peel. Cyclone, meanwhile, is having a time of his life over in the left lane, gets a tier 1, and is at least going to get a minion wave under the tier 2 tower. Khepri separates from the rest of the team. And this is where it gets a little more awkward, right? If you had all 5 members with Fire Giant, you might be able to siege this a little easier, having that sustain. Still, you got a Hell, and that seems to be doing pretty well in keeping the Titans topped off despite the damage from the tier 2. Chernobog's still pushing on left. Kiermi's rejoined the 5v4 in mid. There's a pickup on the Gamma. The walls stop him from getting thrown behind.
That
Fields
cleanse.
of Love is just good to get him out of there. Stinger connects onto layers, but it's not enough damage, not enough follow-up to get anything done. Meanwhile, Cyclone gets the tier 2, and it's starting to threaten the Phoenix.
Yeah, nobody making the rotation for the Valhalla Valkyries will start to slowly work their way over, but I'm not sure either one of the ADCs on the Valks really loves their odds in a 1v1 up against CycloneSpin as of now. The cleanse from Paul there, gotta give some shout-outs. SOT waits it out perfectly, gets the full dash through Fields of Love. There were those answers we were talking about a little bit earlier, and there's that gold swing you were talking about a little bit earlier as well. Every single tower removed from the Valhalla Valkyries, and a gold Fury to finally push the game in favor of the Tartarus Titans for potentially the first time this match. 23 minutes in. I mean, that's pretty good for the Valkyries just in general, notwithstanding the boons we've seen from them in the last couple of sets.
Honestly, to the point, I mean, that Fire Giant, if it goes their way with the way this game had been going up to that point.
I don't think they needed to coin toss it, though. Like,
No.
they were ahead.
Yeah,
Like, you don't need to make those risky plays.
At that point, drop it. Just kill whoever it was. I think Layers and Sot was running in.
Take the fight.
Just
don't pull it
murder
in the
them.
first place.
And then, yeah, like, then you can get it for free because you're in a 3v5 or something like that. Unfortunately for them, they lose that. And that, I mean, that was just the great equalizer. 40 seconds till the next Fire Giant, but no longer a gold lead, no longer an experience lead for a majority of it. I mean, you've got an experience lead now for Sot. Technically still a level behind there for Paul, but I don't know that he's truly feeling it.
You seen Gamma's build? I know we were talking about how aggressive compositions are what the Valhalla Valkyries need, but I think a support might be something they need as well. Just really the Gauntlet of Thieves, Pridwin, then Pythag's piece. It's a whole lot of damage output. If you're landing those ultimates, that shield burst, going to do a whole lot for Pridwin as well. The Valkyries' strategy is incredibly clear. Whoever's standing in front of you needs to die, and Gamma is pretty undiscerning with his ultimate so far. It doesn't matter if it's Sot or if it's Aror or if it's Layers. He's always looking to isolate just whoever it is that he meets up with first. With this style of build and this style of draft from the Valkyries, it's a strategy that can work, but if that initial engagement doesn't go well for him, if it's a cage from Gamma into a Stinger and that guy doesn't die, that's your whole team fight.
Fire Giant pulled, getting burned incredibly fast by the Valkyries, and they're going to get it this time, but can they get out? Layers comes into the back line, getting bursted down. CycloneSpin ults in, but Layers is bursted off of the ground. Wowie has been finding a ton of kills, 3-0-1. There's a good heart bomb and a great leap in from Khepri. They're finding the chase. Aror is low. Aror has the ult procced, and instead it's Gamma that goes down. The two supports almost traded out, but now the Valkyries crumbling under the pressure. The turnaround from the Titans is enough. It's been 4. They're going to make it the full-on deicide as they take down the Valkyries and should end this game.
What is with these guys at getting Fire Giant and just running it down immediately? Reset. Just get back. Heal up a little bit. Wait for your cooldowns to come back. The fight doesn't look great because you used everything to secure the objective. The Valhalla Valkyries on the precipice of taking the game from the Tartarus Titans just could not quite close it out. 10 seconds left on Gamma. I'm not sure that Gamma's really a factor right now.
Yeah, even if he's able to get back in time, and that's a big if. What can you do for it? Now, the Titans, they're going to start damaging this. Auror's looking for the pull, at least to keep Gamma away. And they're going to turn this game around in the matter of a few minutes. That first Fire Giant really is the one that fell apart. And, you know, you look at it, you can watch it back, and, like, it's very clear discerning. Like, there's a decision that's made for the Valks. And that's the one where it all falls apart from there. I think if they get that FG, though, that game skews the other way and a lot harder towards the Valkyries.
Both times. The second Fire Giant where they do actually
Just
get it
out.
could have just backed up there as well. I don't know, man. It just curious decision-making from the Valkyries in that position, I suppose. Realizing that their composition based off the builds they elected to go for was going to start to fall off eventually. Gamma shows that he's not really a tank anymore. We saw in that last team
Yeah.
fight. He goes in and loses 80% of his HP immediately. So maybe that's the concern from the Valkyries. You have to up the pace because you're concerned about how the draft's going to look.
Well, the good news is they at least put on a good show. Look, if Valk's a couple weeks ago against the Titans that looked like that, it would have just been a 21-minute beatdown like we saw yesterday when the Titans took on the Scarabs. So at least showcasing a lot more after their win yesterday. I don't know. I have a lot of hope for what the Valks are going to provide for us here in this set. They look okay in game number 1, but the Titans still take the dub. We'll find out if the Valks can bite back in game number 2 right after this.
What's up, Smite fans? Dolson here, and Season 9 of the SPL is shaping up to be maybe the best ever. And to help us get there, we're partnering with Alienware to provide us, our players, the production team, with state-of-the-art gear to make this year one of the best yet. But don't take my word for it. Let's hear what the pros have to say.
As a professional player, it's super important to make sure that you just have the absolute highest quality gear and peripherals that you can ever get. And having an Alienware PC has completely upped our game here at the SPL.
It's really nice being able to play from the same PC from home into the studio, and I highly, highly recommend it. It feels great to play on.
So I really enjoyed using Alienware computers because, one, I'm a streamer, content is my job, and the power of the Alienware PCs is like amazing. It's perfect for everything that we need to do.
I stream 1080p, no problem. I have no issues with FPS, no frame lag or anything like that.
64 gigabytes of RAM is just something that you can only dream of, and like it helps so much with processing like anything that you need to perform, like multitasking, whether it's streaming, recording, gaming, like everything all at once, and it's been a very smooth experience.
As someone who doesn't enjoy building my own PC, the Alienware's kind of got everything in one machine. It was super easy.
I really like the pre-built Alienware as well because it's really hard to get a graphics card on the market currently.
A 3090 is like impossible to obtain, so being able to play on it has been honestly a very lucky experience.
Back in the day, I used to game and do all my content on a really pathetic laptop, and once I actually was able to get an Alienware PC, there's just no turning back.
For a lot of players that were used to just their home setups and maybe didn't have top quality products, going to such a huge upgrade with our Alienware PCs has just absolutely increased the quality of our practice.
I'm just a big fan of Alienware. I think they're the top of the line PCs literally for a reason.
It's definitely the best PC I've ever had by a long way.
Shoutouts to Alienware, great company, love them a lot.
And I have nothing but praise for the product.
That's high praise from some of the best gamers in the world. So thanks again to Alienware for powering us this year in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. And remember, if you want to get your hands on some of the gear that our pro players play on, make sure to check out Alienware on all of their socials and at their website as well.
I think if I didn't have my Alienware, I would go out and purchase one right now.
Yeah, that's right. Don't just take our word for it. If you heard anything that the pros had to say about those Alienware PCs, you'll probably want to pick one up for yourself. You can do that by going to SmiteGame.com/Alienware using code AWSmite09. Get yourself some discounts and codes on that top-of-the-line Alienware gear. I mean, 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM. What was it, a 3090 graphics card in there, the top-of-the-line processor. All those sound pretty good. If you want to get your hands on it, make sure to go to the website provided to you guys. Also, check out whatever else Alienware has to offer between all the giveaways they do on their website on AlienwareArena.com, or go to their social medias at Alienware on both Twitter and Instagram to see what else Alienware has for you, the fans. Thank you so much to Alienware for coming back in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League, empowering not just us here on the desk with these nice laptops, but the pros at home and in the studio, and our production team with those Aurora Ryzen desktops. Thank you so much once again, Alienware. It's J-Mac and Trelly back. Game number 1, very close, honestly. I mean, all the way up until that very last team fight, Trelly. Essentially even game for the Valkyries. They get a Fire Giant stolen away. That never feels good. They're able to bounce back, get a Fire Giant of their own. And then the game just ended after they took the Fire Giant because they just W-keyed to death.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where, it's no secret that the Valks haven't been in winning situations that often, right? They get some early leads, but it starts to falter. So when you're a team like that and you do get a massive lead like this, you don't get to play with Fire Giants all that often in the SPL. You don't get to play with those leads. So when you get a free Fire Giant at the end of the game, instead of backing up and resetting like Mifflin highlighted, they sort of just W-keyed. They used a lot of abilities to confirm that, and then the fight unfortunately did turn. I think if they were able to confirm that first Fire Giant, the one that SOT stole away with that Atlas ult that I think that we're about to witness here shortly, it would have been a lot better. But unfortunately, it was just not the case. And even though they did win the fight after the fact, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. They chased it down too hard.
Yeah, I mean, right there, they get the kill on layers. Aror gets hit by the double root there at Akirmi as two of them get tugged by that. And right here is the moment where you're thinking, okay, Valkyrie should probably just back up. They now have lost Gamma.
Wowie
but
dashes
instead,
in.
Wowie dashes in. That calls for SOT to turn back around and go right back into the fight. And then it's a wipe, 30-plus seconds until the next person is up. And considering that the Titans had just wiped everything right beforehand, that just opened up for a free push in there. And again, I mean, you're looking at the top of the board, 7-7 on kills, barely even 2,000 gold separating. That's an even game 24 minutes in, but the Valkyries make one overstep, go just a little bit too far, and that's what ends up costing them the game.
Yeah, at the very least, it's very clear. I imagine all of the Valkyries know exactly what they did wrong in that game, but looking at the things that the Titans did right, Paul sits at 3-0, CycloneSpin's 4-0, SOT on this Atlas was doing a ton of damage, sits at 5-1, so they were able to shut down layers in Aurora in the early, get that gold lead, but there still were some looming threats in the distance. You know, I wouldn't say just fixing that Fire Giant fight would have ironed this game out. It certainly would have been better, right? I mean, after you get FG backup reset, we could be looking at a completely different stat line here. Either way, I imagine the Valkyries know exactly what they need to, fix up for game number 2.
Yeah, I mean, again, even throughout the entirety stages, they had a 2,000 gold lead or so about 10 minutes in for the Valks. The Titans are able to bring that back after stealing a Fire Giant with a, what was it, like 208 damage, I think, from the Atlas ult, kind of just firing through. So one little misstep here and there, nothing that the Valkyries can't clean up. And when we saw what they were able to do against the Warriors yesterday in game number 2 when they swapped their draft around.
Oh, yeah.
Don't necessarily think that there needs to be a draft swap out of the Valkyries. Maybe just some slightly better decision-making when it comes down to this play around the objective.
Yeah, exactly. Get that same lead that you were, attempting to get, and you did actually get, and then just play with it a little bit better. The objective fight was still clean up until it got to the Fire Giant. So that's really the only adaptation that I imagine needs to be made. If you are the Tartarus Titans, however, you're probably not happy how that game played out either. There were some great performances, but Layers was largely mitigated, only doing about 7k damage by the end of the game. So possibly a switch up in the jungle. There was a lot of cripple fields, like the Fields of Love, the Stinger, that made Erlang Shen's life pretty miserable.
Yeah, we'll see if the Tartarus Titans take anything away now. It picks and bans for game number 2 to the Titans and the Valkyries. Wowie on the Cupid. It's been, the god itself has been on the rise, but particularly for the Valkyries, that's a pick that Wowie has loved to go back to whenever it is or isn't meta. Now that it is meta, it's something that Wowie has really been able to bring back to the forefront for his god pool. We'll see if the Valkyries get that one back. But as far as the picks and bans are concerned, or at least for now as far as the bans are concerned, it's just going to be the same kind of run back from game number 1. Dodgy, Xingqian.
There it is.
But a Cupid to now change things up for the Titans. So that one, as you highlight, going to make Layers' life a little bit easier in the jungle. And it's still going to be the Ullr E-set and the Yemoja banned by the Valhalla Valkyries.
Yeah, so notably that does leave open the Bellona that the Titans were a little bit more concerned about in the previous picks and bans. Osiris is still highly contested, and it looks like the Chulainn will still be the first pick that the Titans are after, and they'll grab that one right away. So not too much has changed in that regard. We'll see if the Valks even throw any pressure towards that Bellona pick that was let through, right? I mean, I imagine Aquarius was liking the Chang'e yesterday. He was liking it this set as well, so I'm not even that convinced that the Bellona needs to be snap locked. It was just something that I guess the Titans really didn't want to deal with. It went with so many auto attackers, Bellona's going to get some crazy value with the Scourge and just a lane bully in her own regard. So probably smart to take that away, but it does look like the Valkyries are just going to grab that Cabrakan once again and take that Osiris pretty early as well.
So it's going to be just a run back of the drafts, at least for now. The only thing that's going to have to change will be at least whatever Wowie picks up in that 3rd slot. Chulainn, Erlang, Shen. Khepri was the pick last time for Aror. We'll see if he goes with that one once again. Cabrakan and Osiris, the other side for the Valkyries. And I don't imagine that the Titans need to change much up in their draft, so they will go with the same top 3. Now is the only time we're going to see the immediate difference out of the Valkyries with that Cupid ban. What does that leave open for Wowie? Or maybe we don't even worry about Wowie now. A Muzenkob will be the pickup for the Valks.
Yeah, in my head, Wowie's really hoping that the Artemis doesn't get banned here. That seems to be the secondary choice. Still has a great matchup into the Erlang Shen, the Khepri, and the Chulainn. Anytime he dashes into the wall, you can sort of just leave a trap there and say, like, go ahead, dash out. But it also means you could get camped pretty hard, so if Wowie is a little bit worried about his lane safety, maybe won't snap block that right away. The Heimdallr is taken away, which, just some extra safety in that lane, that sort of thing. Did notably leave open, the Morgan, but since AMC was already picked, it doesn't really matter. Benny Q had a great performance on the AMC anyways. You're going to get clear in mid. It does look like, because of those bans, the Artemis does get through.
Not the best win rate on Artemis, however, though. Only 20% win rate on the 10 games played, so a 2-8 win-loss for that god. We'll have to see if the Valkyries can make that 3-8, at least in this game. So double Hunter once again by the Valks means we're going to be left with potentially Aquarius' pick once again. Last game it was the Chang'e for a 5th pick for the Valkyries. Now the Tartarus Titans have free reign of whatever they want to do here. They can just go with the Hell Atlas again because both of those have been left open. So the Titans can just make a complete run back of their own. And at least for the Valkyries, the only thing that would be forced to change would be Wowie's pick. So we could have a near salty run back, but we're not going to have that. Instead, it's Thor for the Tartarus Titans. And so now I open the question to you, Trelly.
Yeah.
Is we've talked to the solo laners about the potential of Erlang Shen solo.
Yeah.
Most of them didn't seem too thrilled about it. But how do you feel about Thor solo comparatively?
Well, I already told you during Picks and Bans in Game 1 that I faced SOT's Atlas solo.
Oh, did you also face the Thor?
I also faced the Thor solo.
He literally just gave you what he was playing today.
Yeah. I will say it didn't dominate the map as the Atlas did, but it does have some use. You have to play off of Anvil of Dawn. You have a fair bit of global presence here with the Chernobog as well. And because I guess Aquarius wasn't really feeling the Chang'e, it looks like we're going to see a Hades hover. That would be a great beads burner for the Artemis. You're going to have a great matchup into Thor because he's got a hammer to clear the wave. You could always go in and get that Pillar of Agony off, try and force the beads. And it looks like the Hades will actually be locked in here. If SOT doesn't pick Thor, I don't imagine Hades gets locked in there, but because the Thor, you're always going to get pressure. I mean, Hades has such a great time in lane against anyone that can't like apply anti-heal and anyone that uses their escape to clear the wave. It's going to be a good time. I imagine SOT is probably going to have to max the 3 and just never hammer. And if he does hammer, he's going to want to stay as far away from Aqua as possible. That's going to be an annoying lane to deal with because beads burning got to be on the forefront of your mind.
So you're definitely locking in that this Thor is going to be going it over to SOT in the solo lane to match up against this Hades. So we will be seeing the Cabrakan go back over towards Gamma once again with the Artemis in that dual lane. So maybe similar levels of kind of kill pressure in that duel. I mean, Cabrakan Cupid, you stun one into a heart bomb, maybe throw out the wall out there, but stun one, drop into a Artemis trap, kind of feels like you could have that same level of kill pressure in duo.
Yeah, I thought you were saying there was the same level of kill pressure like for the Titans, and I was like, you think Khepri Chernobog? No, I get what you're saying. From game number 1.
Yeah, for game 1 for the
2.
Valkyries into the Titans.
Yeah, definitely a lot of aggression. Level 5 specifically, if you can get a nice wall and just trap I mean, you're probably going to Khepri because Chernobog's going to be able to dash into the wall. CycloneSpin should be able to play pretty safe, but Aror's going to have to hold on to those beads because once Tusky comes through, you're in a trap. You're either hitting level 5 first and getting aggressive and or just baiting out, hoping Kiermi can come over after the fact and look for the gank regank situation. Both are definitely a possibility. We know the Valks are trying to get an early lead. They did it last game. They were able to get that early gold lead. They were able to translate that into some early gold furies. I imagine the same sort of style of plan is going to be put into practice here. Penetration definitely at the forefront of your mind when you have a double Fizz comp with an Osiris. So it's going to be a lot on Aquarius to get some beads, do damage, but also survive. That's sort of the issue with Hades is you can't go full damage because you're going to be just sitting there. But if you build too tanky, are you really even doing that much damage? It's a little bit of a tightrope you have to walk. I imagine, you know, the Valks are going to be getting active and beads burning still on the forefront of the conversation.
So I wonder how the Hades build kind of changed up because Bumba's Hammer receiving some slight adjustments and whatnot, and that was kind of the go-to build for the Hades, especially when we were looking at it during the Masters LAN, you know, with the SCC teams that were going out there, specifically over in the EU region. We saw a ton of the Bumba's Hammer. It was what, like Warlock Staff, Ethereal, build a bunch of tanky items and a Bumba's Hammer out there. Do you think that's the same kind of build path that Hades goes in this game?
Oh, man. You know what? Trying to theory craft a Hades build off the top of my head is something I did not think I would have to do. I imagine Bancroft still has to be in the conversation because it's just such a strong item. The Bancroft's Claw also could be pretty useful as the game goes on, but the Conduit Gem into Warlock start, as you highlighted, still could give you that tank start. It really just depends on how much anti-heal the Titans are going for and how much healing that Aquarius wants to commit to, right? Because if you're just going full lifesteal and then you're getting anti-healed, it's not a fun time.
We'll have to see what this Hades ends up going. We'll have to see how the Valkyries can pan out in game number 2 up against the Tartarus Titans. We'll once again throw it over to Gormizer and Mifflin to bring the action.
Excited to see what the Valkyries are going to have for us in this game, Mifflin. Yesterday, game 1 against the Warriors was not a very good showing for them, but games 2 and 3 where they really stepped it up. And it feels like since then, even game 1 here, they stepped it up. A couple of calls that maybe could have been clearer or cleaner that would have gotten them maybe a concise victory versus the unfortunate turmoil that the Titans caused for them. But still something that's going to be very fun. A tier 2 Warlock staff we're carrying on the conversation there from the desk is Aquarius' start right now. Other than that, everything's pretty much back to standard. SoloOrTroll playing the Thor, not something we've seen in a while, but not something that's super uncommon either.
You know, if I know the Thor was picked for SOT originally, but once I saw that Hades matchup, if I'm SOT, I'm just begging, like, yo, Layers, you wanna try the Thor jungle this time around? Let me get that Erlang Shen. Because this matchup is multifold. Trelly already brings up the fact that You kind of use your hammer to clear wave, which is less than ideal. Hades can close that gap very easily and apply damage and just out-sustain you in the lane. But also, if you're just trying to hammer to escape, Fear is always an answer. Leap into the ultimate's always an answer. SOT probably going to struggle a bit more so than he would have liked in the laning phase. So you've got a Ripcord as a Thor. I'll just leave. I'll just go, I don't know, Anvil of Dawn mid. Good luck keeping up.
Now, I do have a question for you. It's been a while since I've seen Thor in solo lane. Ku barely confirmed there by the Titans. I wondered if there was going to maybe be something more explosive on this side as well. But he went for Berserker's Barrage first, which, like, in the jungle kind of makes sense, right? You're going for clear, things like that. Is that the same thing you feel for at least level 1 here in solo lane? Now he has both, so maybe the clear doesn't matter and the discussion is moot, but it feels like an interesting start considering how in the wave he had to be.
Yeah, I mean, Hammer's probably your best clear with some of the changes to it now, not really doing reduced damage to the minion wave / minions, but Berserker's Barrage a bit safer. The concern of using that hammer to clear wave always there. I'm not really concerned with what you get at level 1. You know, it's not going to be a massive difference.
It's
no matter
not like
what.
you spent a lot of time there anyway.
Yeah, level 1 was all of 3 minions, but levels 3 through 5 through 9, I don't think there's any point of this matchup where you're going to look at SOT like, oh yeah, he's hitting an inflection point. He's going to start winning the 1v1. Aqua got himself a very favorable lane.
We'll see maybe how rotations, ults, things like that later on impact this one. Right now, it's been a lot of this where Sot walks up, tries to hit Aquarius for some decent damage, takes about a third of his health bar and has to back off layers. So over here as the blue buff gets invaded, it's going to get secured and dropped. Aquarius picks that one up and stolen away from Sot. So a lane that was already going to be difficult ends up getting even more difficult. Ku goes towards the Valks as well, so they get both blue buffs. The farm has gone in their favor. It feels like, at least on this side of the map, maybe things aren't done, but Aquarius has a nice cushy matchup.
Yeah, I mean, he's just going to heal up every bit of damage. I wonder, you know, Charlie had said that you're likely maxing Berserker Barrage. I was wrong last time around when we saw the Unorthodox Atlas, but I do think you are maxing the hammer here. Just your highest poke potential. You really want to be able to apply that damage from a range. When I watch SOT play Thor solo, it's a whole lot of that. Forget the wave, I'm coming to you. Unfortunately for SOT, Aqua's just going to like do that again and again and again, and eventually he's just going to out-sustain. I'm surprised we don't see a Chalice of Healing pickup for SoloOrTroll. Would be able to match up at least a little bit of the self-sustain that Aquarius has in the lane, but instead just standard potions. If you're able to get pressure like that on Thor, your ability to like rotate through the jungle and clear the enemy jungle is very good. Probably because Thor's a jungler.
As it turns out, he's really good in that their jungle role. It's really interesting because based on what you've said, what we're seeing, what Trelly played against yesterday is what he was saying. I'm starting to think I should have been paying a lot more attention. I had SoloOrTroll's stream open on the other monitor, but all I remember from it is them having a discussion about the Machine Gun Kelly and Eminem diss tracks against each other.
Dude.
As to which one was better. That's all I got out of it.
What did they say?
Almost everyone in the chat unanimously was like, oh yeah, Eminem absolutely slaughtered.
Yeah, I mean, like, he gave... my man switched genres. MGK is now an emo head. He makes, like punk rock now. He got bullied out of rap. All right? There's
Dude,
not
okay,
a debate.
wait, hold on. If, like, Eminem made a diss track against me, yeah, I'd leave whatever it was. Like, I'd quit. I'd be gone forever.
I don't understand how
I'd
someone
disappear.
steps to the GOAT. It just doesn't make sense.
And so that's what I got out of Sot's stream last night. It turns out I should pay maybe a little more attention to what he's playing and what he's building. I feel like there's not a lot of solo laners that when you watch them, like you'll watch them lock in the Thor solo and you'll be like, this is a fun ranked pick. This is a fun pick that they're like, maybe their build will be interesting, but like, it's ranked. So of course this is going to be something they want to do. They'll play around and do whatever. And then seeing it here makes it a little more interesting. Again, it's maybe not too far-fetched in terms of the Thor. And so that's something that we've seen a little more consistently over the last couple of years. Whether or not the ults are impactful, I'm just excited to see how it can really scale into the rest of this game. Hades on the other side is already stacking up the Warlock staff. You've got the same for the Hell for Paul here. The taunt coming out from the Erlang. Seems like they want to lock down Gamma. Damage does not really seem to be there for him, though. First Blood seems to be evasive. Titans look for a little more. Blink from Gamma. Gets that one out of there. I think that's all she wrote.
Yeah, ultimate from SOT, seen if maybe the Valhalla Valkyries would path towards his lane. Not the case, so dunks on the wave. Aqua had already started to make his rotation as well. I like just the presence from Aror. Didn't seem like he was actually threatening Abduct, but just by standing nearby, Gamma forced to use that blink defensively. Never a great move for your Cabrakan support, especially the styles of build that we know that Gamma likes to go towards. High aggression seems to be the MO of this composition from the Valkyries. Regardless, with 0 action on the board, 6 minutes in, the Valkyries showing that they know how to pressure the map nowadays. They really are figuring out that farm. Just by rote, establishing a 1,000 gold lead up against the Tartarus Titans. That's a significant accomplishment.
You remember when, 6 minutes in, if you were watching Phase 1, like Week 1, it was always this interesting conversation. Even, in some of the games in Phase 2 where it'd be like, oh yeah, the Valks are up 3 kills or 4 kills, and it's like they're down 2,000 gold though, so what does it matter? It's impressive. Again, that's always the conversation when it comes to things like the Summer Masters coming up when the SEC teams are going to be playing around, or when you get a new team like the Valkyries who joined earlier this year. Some of the hard stuff on in the SBL is not, can you find, positioning sometimes will be a problem, but a lot of it is like gold. How do you farm? How do you get this stuff? How do you make it work for you? And luckily they've got that under their belt. Not as much of a lead, I think, at this point last game. But it does feel good for them. I think a lot of that had to do with First Blood and some of these neutral objectives. The Titans definitely being a lot more proactive alongside them, so being aggressive just as much as the Valkyries are.
Yeah, I wonder what the Tartarus Titans late game team fight starts to look like. I'm thinking SOT is just going to go full damage, especially this Bluestone Transcendence start. So the Tartarus Titans are going to be lacking a front line once the team fight phase starts up proper. Whereas the Valhalla Valkyries don't really have that concern. They've got a very tanky front line with Aqua and a good deal of initiation from Gamma. So it's not the same conversation as Game 1. The Valhalla Valkyries need to push their lead because they're worried about what that team fight is going to look like from an even state. This time around, I'm not so certain that that's the case. I think the Valhalla Valkyries even might have a slight advantage in the lead.
Layers, lockdown walls, good from Gamma. There's going to be the Tremor's taunt from Layers, keeps Kirmi going, but the rest of the Titans show up. And that's enough bodyguards to make sure the jungler gets out of there alive. Feels like a good engage there for the Valkyries, though. You can tell what they're going for. Now that Scarab's Blessing is down, a moment like that, with the taunt down, feels like they should be able to find maybe a little more pressure in the jungle over the next couple of minutes. And that's, the other part of this. We got to see Layers on the Erlang. We got to see Kirmi on the Osiris last game. Not much is changing in regards of that matchup. But the duo lane has changed a lot. And there wasn't a lot of pressure over there to begin with. I mean, it was an island from the get-go. Essentially, Gamma left, Aror left, and then we didn't see Wowie or Cyclone unless Cyclone ulted in. Wowie just didn't exist for a while. Now he gets a good boar. Not able to find the follow-up, gets the beads, Aquarius in a little bit of trouble on the other side of the map. Will Sot be able to find the damage? Doesn't even seem like they need it. The hammer's good, but Layers gets that last auto in right before the double tap can connect, and First Blood goes over to the Titans.
Yeah, Aqua been using that leap pretty aggressively in the lane to deal with that hammer up against SOT, so an easy rotation for Layers to make it once Aqua had already expended that escape ability. Even with the rotation of Aror, you're really just confirming the kill there. Aqua will at least be able to back to base, pick up that Breastplate of Valor, so the lane matchup going to be a little bit easier, and the cooldown on that leap going to be a little bit shorter, so those opportunities much more narrow for the Tartarus Titans. That said, SOT being able to close up a bit of that gold gap, and now probably heading back to base pretty shortly to finish up that next item, can start to get rotating towards mid. I want to see SOT involved specifically around Benny Q. As Thor up against AMC, it's just a good matchup. You don't even need to bring up the fact that it's an immobile mid laner, so Anvil of Dawn is pretty consistent against him. The wall itself is pretty valuable. Yeah. Just land next to him, put a wall behind him, and let the rest of your team do the rest of the work.
I mean, that was something we were seeing a little bit when the Kings played it. And admittedly, it didn't work out the way they had wanted to. But the walls, if you have like a Ymir, you get a Thor, all of a sudden you get to just control the dynamic of the jungle. Good leap from Kirmi to get out of that Anvil of Dawn. Kirmi, though, walled off. And that passive plays a role, lets him walk through, but it's not fast enough. Aror gets the kill on the right lane. And the Titans fall back, feeling a little successful.
Yeah, SOT still has not gone back to base. 1,500 gold in hand. Don't need to head back to base, I guess, if you're able to put out that kind of damage. Kirmi just caught rotating back towards his own side of the map. Pyromancer, the target of aggression for the Tartarus Titans, and the Valhalla Valkyries not going to stick around for this one. So a clean neutral objective and a clean 2-0 start for the Order side team. close up the entirety of that lead that the Valkyries have had for themselves and instead put it in their own pockets.
Well, this is the interesting portion of this, and I think it's great how you highlighted it, because this lane is still not going well for SOT. Like, lane-wise, it sucks. Yeah, everything else-wise, he's been doing great. And it's just the minute he passes that threshold into the jungler, or into the jungle, it feels like he gets to really get hands-on. And I think that's the interesting thing. You know, Aqua playing Chang'e, doing well on that, playing the Hades, and doing pretty well so far on that. I think it's interesting to see some of these junglers branching out, or not some junglers, the solo laners branching out away from the Warriors, away from the Guardians that we've kind of seen dominating the lane for not just this year, but like the last couple of years. And we're seeing these assassins, SOT's playing hunters, even though that kind of fell off after the beginning of Phase 1, Phase 2.
Could have fooled me from that Scarab set. Good lord.
Dude, his Ullr, I don't know what
it looked like a COD montage video.
It's so wild. Someone should do that. Go put the air horns, the MLG effects that used to happen.
If I could see some hit markers on some Ullr shots.
It does like the shaky screen.
Yeah, and get that one meme video of the girls like, the aliens aren't contacting us, the animals are leaving, it's just you and me, and then, you know,
boom, 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 and like him hitting the first axe.
Oh man.
Look, someone out there, if you're watching, we just made the montage for you. You just have to go get some clips from yesterday.
We want some credit for it too, though. Like, put us like a writer's
tag me
mention.
on Twitter afterward, something. That'd be fun to watch. Now I'm thinking about enjoying that. I'm enjoying this game as well. Slower pace, not as many kills, although I think last time it was, what, 5? There were a couple of brawls that went back and forth. Gold, though, definitely a talking point. Valkyries, 15 minutes into the last game, 3,600 gold in their favor. 12.5 minutes into this game, and they're starting to fall behind by an uncomfortable chunk. 1,300's not terrible, but it's definitely something they'll start feeling. Looks like some pressure on the solo lane. Layers is over here. Pin's going to be good, but not good enough for the follow-up. Nice double tap. Get some damage out there from SOT. Not able to find the kill. Ymir's looking for something in mid. They're trying to find the pull back, the kills that they so desperately need to help equalize things. But unfortunately for them, they're just not coming through.
Yeah, good luck killing a Khepri into hell. You got CC immunity and death immunity from both of them, as well as healing and additional movement speed. So the chase down potential is there, but difficult. Well, Rourke messed up his abduct. He's stuck.
Yeah, there's the walls as well. Clins can only do so much. Scarab's Blessing's going to help a little bit. Walls open, but you're not getting out of that one. The Stinger as well. Really just to make sure that the deal is sealed. Now Aquarius stunned under the tower. Taunt going to be good. Layers looking for a kill. And the Titans are going to find a little bit more. 1 for 1. And you know it hurts a little more to lose your solo laner. But they get the Gold Fury. And so the Valkyries with a great pull.
Yeah, just Aror, again, stepping a little too far forward there. Abduct off the mark. Just gets him locked in place. The wall from Gamma enough to secure that kill with the help of that EQ Stinger. So the Tartarus Titans, with layers on the right side of the map, have to do something, realizing that they are not favored in the engagement around the Gold Fury. Dedicate their time to diving Aquarius. Are able to take him out, but not going to find too much more afterward. That said, SOT, a little bit of magic defense, should be able to move back in towards power with this next item slot if he so chooses, and a pretty massive level lead. I wouldn't be surprised if we just see SOT left to his own devices on the right side of the map and have layers rotate elsewhere.
And I recognize I might have missed this happening in game 1. Finicky getting aggressive in mid lane, and is the person I want to talk about. Rage is his second item. Transcendence directly into Rage is not something I think I expected to see it. Again, if he did it in game 1, then maybe it's something I should have expected a little bit more. But, you know, getting some crit, I mean, it's not a lot of power as you get the stacks. If you get the stacks, it starts to scale up pretty well into the late game. But that is an interesting choice this early on.
Yeah, I suppose you don't really need the power if you've got all that penetration built into your kit with Stinger. Would like to see some more kills. CycloneSpin forced up to the air defensively. Has used the beads and shell as well. It's not a great landing spot.
Yeah, finds Gamma. Gamma finds Cyclone. But that is going to be a great Phantom Shell from Aror. Gets them through those walls like it's nothing. But now Aror maybe steps in a little too far. Scarab's Blessing will get procced, keep him alive. Tusky standing guard underneath, stuns him, and makes sure that the tank goes down. Now Layers trying to save his support. Bites off more than he can chew, and it's a kill for the Valkyries. Aquarius rotating in for that one.
Really good timing for the Valkyries to find some kills as well. Pyromancer spawning up very shortly, could just rotate over and take the objective for themselves, pushing the lead back in their favor. Auror's been getting caught out a couple too many times this game, and offset for the support of the Tartarus Titans. And now the Valhalla Valkyries looking to optimize on it quickly. SOT nearby, it's not guaranteed. Hammer not quite on the mark, so the Valkyries take it for themselves and the lead in one fell swoop.
Now, just being able to find a little bit more gold after the Fury, plus the Pyro, what, net neutral, right? Yeah, overall in the game. At 15 minutes, 16 minutes in, it's maybe not the best position for you, but after the start that they had, feels good to equalize for the Valkyries. I even got to see, Khepri comes out into the break room getting some water after game number 1, and he goes, we might have lost that one. I just feel great that we're playing better now, and this is a good example of that. Great walls from Gamma. They lock CycloneSpin down, and what a clean kill for the Valkyries in the duo lane.
Another off-kilter pick for the Valhalla Valkyries. Can they keep up their pressure here? Aror, he's survivable, and he's got Scarabs Blessing coming up shortly, so shouldn't be too concerned for his own life. But wow, he's got Atalanta's, Transcendence, has a good deal of damage. Should be able to knock down this tower, just given a little bit of time. Even the CC chain between these two, a stun from Gamma into a trap from Wowie, might be enough to threaten Aror into using that Scarabs Blessing. So a disengage from him, a pick on the Cyclone, a tower to boot. Valhalla Valkyries are playing very well.
Being able to get aggressive, again, clean play. Valkyries, hell, even last week to this week, it feels like they powered up whatever it was that they needed to have happen. Maybe it was just the inspiration of knowing that the other teams were having some struggles with their rosters. Who knows what it is. Either way, they've been feeling pretty solid. It's fun to watch.
It was the 0-19, I think.
The 0-19. Yeah, that is a big eye-opener. You know what? Get blanked once, shame on me. Get blanked twice. No, get blanked once, shame on you. Get blanked twice, shame on me. And they didn't want to get blanked twice. They didn't want to admit it was them.
Get blanked at all, and it's just shame.
Yeah, good point. It just doesn't feel great. Well, so far, though, they've actually managed to do a lot in the last couple of minutes that have made things more comfortable for them. I mean, tower over there on left is a good opening. Setting up for the Oni Fury that's going to respawn in about 30 seconds. Pyromancer, as you had mentioned a little earlier, got taken down, but they swerved this gold lead right back in their favor. Again, not a massive amount, 18 minutes in, maybe 1,400 isn't a ton, but 1,400 still better than nothing, and I like that they've been giving themselves the building blocks to move forward.
Yeah, I am really excited to see what the Valhalla Valkyries are capable of doing with this gold that they've already built up for themselves. A fight around the Oni Fury as it spawns could look good for the Valhalla Valkyries, who've already taken out that left side tier 1 tower, meaning that the Tartarus Titans don't really have the best escape paths if the fight starts to go south. Crit already starting to stack up for Wowie. Benny got 3 stacks on that Rage. Heavy Executioner for Kirby means that the damage output of the Valkyries is very high, and they're looking to leverage it now around the Fury.
Yeah, at least pulled up, getting burned down really fast as well. And this is just something that it doesn't seem like anybody's going to have anything to say about on the Titans. A clean Oni Fury, more gold in the pocket for the Valkyries. And a Trebuchet in mid to help pressure down this tier 1. Feels like the map state is slowly changing in their favor. Grouping 5 on 3. There's going to be the teleport in from Sot. So they have now a 5 on 4. Anvil of Dawn ready whenever they need it. Sot gets an audio cue, unfortunately, and Aquarius spots him out. They're letting the Trebuchet do its work. And it's getting a lot of damage out on that tower without a lot of damage being returned. This should be the last hit. That's going to be some gold. And Gamma goes in, gets the walls on the Paul. There's the Phantom Shell. They turn around on the layers. There's Sot, crashes down, gets Aquarius, and has a good wall. Wow, he takes a lot of damage, but Sot takes more in return. Scarabs Blessing gets him out of there. And now CycloneSpin has joined the battle. The damage, will it be there? He doesn't seem to be finding the targets he wants. Kirmi jumps in and has to leap away to stay alive, but he's just not going to be able to escape. Good pin, finds 2 from layers. Damage follow-up isn't quite there, but now the surge forward for the Titans, whether it's the tier 1 or the kills, they want the kills. Gamma slowed by Hell and killed off by Cyclone.
The Tartarus Titans play that fight so well. CycloneSpin really holding on to that ultimate until the very last second. Once the Valhalla Valkyries had gone through their first ability rotation, CycloneSpin joins the engagement. SOT forces so much, realizing that the safety net of Scarab's Blessing is there, just fully dedicates himself to damage, and does enough that the Valhalla Valkyries have to start the retreat, even if they are able to drop him down. Luckily, Aror there to make sure he doesn't actually have to head back to base in a body bag. And now it's the Tartarus Titans with Fire Giant on 5, and potentially some more if Aquarius sticks around too long. Won't be doing that, so Aquarius can still walk out alive. Not sure if we'll be able to say the same thing about his tower, though. That should go pretty easily to the Titans.
Well, we got to get through the tier 1 first, at least. So that's going to be an easy
That's the
thing.
one I was
Oh,
talking
that's the
about.
one you were talking about.
Yeah, it's a tower.
Yeah. And you know what? It is. I knew that. I just wanted to make sure that everybody else was aware.
I appreciate
We're not talking
you.
about those tier 2s. Now we are, though. That tier 1's gone. Tier 1 and left. That's a that's like a nudge away from getting toppled. So that one is only really worth the gold that is going to be taken when it gets stripped down. With the Fire Giant burned quickly. Pyromancer, guess what? Burned. Maybe not quite as quick, but still fast enough. Titans get that one. What was looking like a good gold lead for the Valkyries. Equalized quickly by the Tartarus Titans. And now it's just where they want to put that map pressure. And you were mentioning this in game 1, that it was really weird. We kept seeing Fire Giants into immediate, like, let's dive real deep for no discernible good reason, because they had already taken a lot of the towers at that point. And then teams would just die. This time around, you're getting the Fire Giant, you're getting the full reset, you're getting back in for the grouping. Just waiting to see where the team decides to put their pressure. Left is usually the go-to. And again, that tower means virtually nothing in the grand scheme of things. Throw a stray auto over there if your Cyclone is gone. There's no Fury for him, so it's just the patience of the group up. But time's burning, right? They have the power play only for so long.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Titans are actually pushing up on the left-hand side themselves. Usually when CycloneSpin's on Chernobog, it's, hey, leave him to his own devices, let him do his own thing on the opposite side of the map. Let's 4-stack mid and force the Valkyries to respect that instead. Significant grouping from the Tartarus Titans. I suppose they just really like their team fight. SOT has the deep flank. All the Valkyries in the tier 2 tower. A wall here could be very disruptive.
The wall does get spotted. There's a couple of wards there. See him out, Ymir. He's hanging out over here. Doesn't even have to just be the wall. Anvil of Dawn could be good. Aquarius goes in. Gamma finds the walls onto Aror. Up into the sky goes Sot. Where is it going to go? The team, both of them have fallen back.
I'm so surprised.
And yeah,
SOT's dunking those 9 times out of 10.
Someone was pulling the reins real hard to make sure he
Aurora
didn't
is
go
screaming
in.
at the top of his lungs, don't you dare.
He falls back there. Now, well, it's the question of whether or not they can get aggressive. Layers splits off to go split push in mid. They've got the 4v5 over here. A couple of ults down. Gamma moves forward. Stuns not going to connect. There's the pull. Gamma's taking a lot of damage. Cyclone's not being looked at, and he's ringing true with his shots. Gets one and is looking to find another. Wow, he's so low, and he's going to find that one as well. Ball might go down. Kiermi chasing as deep as he can, but how far away can you get? Good jump from Kiermi, and right into the waiting arms of Layers, as you pointed out. Mid-tier 1 getting pushed by minions. And the Titans feel great about that fight.
Yeah, not sure Layers needed to blink there, but you know, a kill's a kill, and Kiermi is dead.
That was a surprise
for the next 40 seconds. He's like, yo, surprise, you're dead sooner. Tartarus Titans start to approach that left side. Phoenix, just Benny and Aquarius for the defense. Make that just Aquarius. Benny takes the scenic route around his own tower. Now Phoenix falls down, and the Tartarus Titans, like Bandits of the Night, will make it away. Still 4 strong with the Fire Giant for 30 seconds. You said it about the left side tower. A stiff breeze would have knocked it over. Mid tower in the exact same position. So why waste your time going for that? You can pick up a Primal Fury.
Yeah, pick that up. It's weird because at this point you've got the Phoenix. There's still 3 towers available, right? So it's like if you are able to win a fight, making it in, the Titan's going to have that extra health. Until that tier 1 goes down, as long as it exists, you're missing out on gold and you're missing out on the Titan losing some of his HP. Otherwise, that's all it's pretty much doing right now. It's not a huge threat 24 minutes in. But it is something to be a little concerned about. Like you said, though, with the Fire Giant falling off, 55 seconds now until it respawns. I anticipate the Titans aren't thinking too much about the Titan room right now. They're thinking, cool, what do we do for the next fight? Wards, vision, things like that. As well as relics. I mean, beads are down for Paul for another minute. So that's going to be something the Valkyries might be able to leverage if they can catch the hell out pretty much right as the FG respawns, or maybe a little sooner. Same for that Scarab's Blessing. It's going to be coming back soon. Sot goes up. Yeah, good blink from Aqua. Gets him away from the Anvil of Dawn. Cyclone comes in. Layers is here as well. They want this kill onto the Hades, but now Kiermi leaps in. Slow is good onto Cyclone, but the wall stuns him out a little bit better. Beads get used so he can stay aggressive. He wants the kill, but it's getting turned around onto him. Layers gets the last hit and takes down the jungler.
Aurora acting as goaltender in the jungle keeps Gamma from rotating in, even forces the Cabrakan's ultimate. Paul should be able to re-sustain just about everybody if CycloneSpin doesn't have himself covered, and he does, play headed back to base. The Tartarus Titans, good grouping on that right-hand side. Aqua tries his best to hold on to that leap as long as possible. but by the time he had used it, SOT had the answer, the wall to lock him down, and everybody else from the Titans hot on pursuit.
Fire Giant started up. Slow burn is how I would describe this one from the Titans. It is getting taken. Now Cyclone's there. It should go a little bit quicker. They're going to get the FG. Binny had to fall back and defend fire minions on the left side lane. That made their way into the Titan room. This should be the easiest. Layers goes back to mid to clear and push up. Easiest tier 1 of his life that he's going to get right here. Tier 2 on the other side, very simply knocked down. A minion wave on right. Feels like the Titans are in a good spot to start sieging.
Yeah, they've got strong siege potential, but it's an elongated siege from the Tartarus Titans. Hey, we'll poke and prod at the Phoenix, back up, heal, resustain, and just wait for a couple of these key resources from the Valhalla Valkyries to go down. Caledonian Boar and Pillars of Agony. That's Hades ult and Artemis ult. That the Valhalla Valkyries really need to play around. If both of those are down and nobody's dead from the Tartarus Titans, I don't see how the Valkyries are going to take this fight.
And it's really difficult even to try and engage on the Titans under your Phoenix line, although they're playing it cautiously. Minions keep getting shredded. Fire minions on left trying to do their work. Ymir having to create a little extra distance. Layers looks like he's headed over that way as well. Although he's running around through the jungle on the left-hand side. The rest of the Titans back off. They decide, you know what?
Really?
We're not going to continue pushing on right. Instead, they're going for the Pyromancer. At this point, I can only assume, yeah, with gold in hand, that they're going to back and get some power spikes that they feel is more worthwhile than trying to siege.
Yeah, like 3,000 gold for Layers, so pretty easy to finish up that mace. And also all of his relics, a couple of Phantom Shells for the Tartarus Titans as well. Previously, it was just Aror who had the Phantom Shell for himself, so now some more answers to those Cabrakan walls could help out a good deal. It's not as if you're really pressed for time as the Tartarus Titans. I mean, left side Phoenix spawning up shortly, but the wave's pushed up pretty significantly, so it can just head on over and try and knock it down on spawn. The Valhalla Valkyries, on the other hand, they're choked out from farm. I mean, the entirety of the right side jungle taken away, left side jungle down as well. Really, the only place they can find any farm safely is Wowie, and he's taking it for himself on this left side wave. Tartarus Titans in a very good position. They bide their time. All their relics are back up, barring the Bracer. Ultimate's available. I'm thinking this siege is going to look pretty good.
Sots up in the air, comes crashing down onto Binny Q. You mentioned this exact matchup earlier. There's the wall, there's the hammer. Not enough to get the kill, but forces the relics out of the mid laner and locks him back into the base. Aquarius used his ult and does not get out with his life. Caledonian Boar, it's down as well. The defense for the Valkyries crumbling under the Titans now as they start to siege up this left-hand side one more time. They get that. Paul gets himself a double kill, and they're walking into the Titan room. 2v5 for the Valkyries here, and it doesn't look too great. The Titans come in, and they find this set 2-0 with a couple of kills to boot at the very end, and a triple kill for Paul.
Give him the quad, Gamma. Oh my god, is he actually going to get the quad? Cyclone ruins the stat line. It's all right. Nobody's upset as long as it's a win at the end of the day. That's the Valhalla Valkyries, I think, just losing a little bit of focus on that defense, just not realizing how much danger they're in, regardless of map state, when there's that much global pressure. An ultimate from SOT followed up by CycloneSpin, just enough to catch them out. With the base defense, not exactly the point of the game that the Valkyries draft is at its best, but still certainly than what we just got to see. Just didn't really get a chance to look at that 5-on-5 under Phoenix.
That's the second set this week that I've seen the Titans win, and like, no smiles in their booth. For them, either it is like, okay, yeah, it was just work, we came in, we won, whatever. But either way, they get themselves the dub here. They look pretty good doing it as well. I think in that game, you know, there's a lot of talk about the Valkyries, I think, looking phenomenal in comparison to what we've seen out of weeks past, keeping things closer, making sure it's competitive. But even towards the end there, and I didn't get to mention it when I wanted to, but like 10,000, 12,000 gold starts separating the two. And all of a sudden, you're starting to feel the skew being in favor of the Titans there. They give themselves the 2-0, though, and they look good doing it. We're going to throw it back over to the desk, and they can break it down.
Yeah, thank you so much. Tartarus Titans with a clean 2-0 over the Valhalla Valkyries to end off their weekend, keep themselves a little bit higher up in the standings. And this game, too, was not a great one necessarily. I mean, similar kind of vibes of game number 1, Charlie, where it's just this 5-man death ball style of comp that the Titans are drafting. This time now with 2 globals on their kit, or at least a global and a semi-global with the Thor and the Chernobog out there. And the Tartarus Titans are able to make good work of it. Maybe a couple of oversteps by the Valkyries during some of the team fights. I mean, Ymir, I remember back in the mid lane diving really deep towards a tier 1 tower, gets into picked off, and just kind of this 1-by-1 conveyor belt style of play the Valkyries tried to do against the Titans this ended up panning out for him.
Yeah, I don't think I blame Khepri for overextending, trying to get those picks on a CycloneSpin. We saw it time and time again where the Osiris was at the back line, just boxing Chernobog, get like 1 HP, but could never really finish those kills. If you do get those kills, could be pretty massive, but unfortunately this wasn't the case, and it really did seem like the global pressure from the Titans was a little bit too much to handle. You know, SOT on this Thor was constantly getting rezzed by, you know, Aror even when he was diving into the backline, and then CycloneSpin would just fly in out of nowhere, as we get to see pretty perfectly right here. It's just, you think you've got a man advantage, you think you're safe, you're far away, and then they can close that gap just so quickly.
I also don't think Khepri was expecting that amount of damage
Yeah,
to come from Paul. Like, we always talk about the amount of healing that Hell can do. There's a good example that not only is Hell a good healer, but also just good at dealing damage to squishier people. Gamma getting pulled right back in. I mean, the CC chains, the long-range initiation, the long-range CC that the Titans had, just a little too much for the Valkyries during these fights. And as you highlight perfectly, Aror with these reses constantly making sure that his team is able to stay alive, to stay healthy during these fights, and be able to have that kind of pseudo-sixth man come back into these battles.
Yeah, Paul was just doing so much burst damage, and I think you're right to highlight that as well. Just unexpected damage. You know Hell's going to provide the cleanses, you know she's going to speed up your team, but when you just get chunked by those abilities, it really starts to add up. And I think that they just highlighted this composition as well as you can, right? Splitting up the opposition, making sure the team fight is the exact way that you want to do it. The Titans, I mean, they had a game plan from the draft, from the get-go, and they executed it perfectly.
Yeah, Tartarus Titans able to come through. Paul ends the game on a nice little triple kill with this Hell. Good lord, did that just see 800 damage that one hit him for?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I think I've already forgotten how hard that Hell can hit, and now seeing that is a really clear indication out there. But a 0-0-14 slash line for SOT, so didn't find any kills, didn't die.
Is he playing Ganesha?
But maybe he was in this case, but 14 assists at the least, a part of so much of the action for his team. Actually, a part of every single kill, I believe, if I added my math up correctly on there. 4, 4, 4, and 2, 12, 14, yeah. 100%. As a solo laner, 100% participation is probably the most impressive stat line out there.
Yeah, and he had top damage, so like, you know, we can.
Okay, that's solo lane though. That's fake damage. Like
well,
10K of that was hit.
This is Thor. This isn't Bologna.
10,000 of that was hitting a Hades.
You gotta hit abilities though. I mean, you gotta hit double tap.
Oh no, I stood next to Hades and spun at him.
Oh my goodness, that gets silenced out. Okay, your Berserker's Barrage never gets the big. Never mind. We don't have to argue. He had a good game, and the stats maybe didn't show as much as he was able to accomplish on the pick. You know, I know I said in the draft previously, you know, Thor solo is one of those that you have to be landing the ults. If you're not hitting those ults, you're not getting the full value out of the pick. But the walls, again, cutting off the space, it's like a pseudo Ymir wall. It's just, you know, you can't walk through here. That's also super annoying to deal with.
Sets up nicely for his team, helps lead his team to victory, and gets to stand by and talk for his team. The post-game interview with SOT, the sole laner for the Tartarus Titans. All right, so when we came into both of these games, Trelly mentioned that you had gone up against him previously last night in ranked on both of these picks, and also kind of whooped up on two of his teams. Is that true out there, SOT?
I think so. I played like a lot of games. I played like 10 hours of Smite, so I don't remember.
Wow.
But I remember Trelly in the queues, that's for sure.
So sniping, maybe not sniping out there, but definitely taking down Trelly in those queues. Talk about this 3v3 comp, man. This is like, I think, the third game out of 4 that you have run this Erlang, Shen, Khepri, and Hell combo. What's up with that, man? That's just cringe.
No, it is very cringe. I do agree. I don't want to go too much into why we pick it, but it's just gods we like and gods we think are pretty good. So
yeah. Gods you're winning on too. Guess you can't complain about that. So you got 1 week left before we start kind of jumping into Masters. What are your kind of team's thoughts around things to maybe work on or improve as you go into kind of that final week of the SPL?
Yeah, I mean, I think our biggest thing was to iron out like picks. Like, we've been playing a lot of different types of picks. We haven't really, in my opinion, found like the sort of like draft monopoly type of thing like we had at Masters. Like at Masters, we had like a bunch of OP gods that were really good in our hands, and we couldn't get out drafted. So they couldn't ban away. We had too many gods they couldn't ban. And I think if we try and find that again, I think we kind of have. So I think that's what really allows the team to win.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it works out for you guys in week number 8. Congratulations on your 2-0 win over the Valks. Let's get back to celebrate. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Dang, he queued 10 hours of Smite yesterday. Man, that's pretty impressive. I don't know if I could hit that level of dedication he did. I definitely hit some pretty insane hours yesterday, but most of mine were just some like hardcore casual. I definitely don't know if I could slam 10 hours of ranked.
If I'm winning for 10 hours.
I mean, yeah, if you're winning for 10 hours, more power to you. But SOT, the solo laner for the Tartarus Titans, their 2-0 win, an impressive performance by him and the rest of the team today to find their victory over the Valhalla Valkyries. But that was just our first set of the day. We still got one more, so let's take a look at the schedule and the standings to see what else is left for you guys today. With the 2-0 for the Titans, that now leaves our final set, the Oni Warriors and the Olympus Bolts. The Bolts falling to the Leviathans earlier in the week on Friday to an 0-2, and the Oni Warriors with their loss to the Valkyries on a 1-2. So both these teams coming off of a loss, opposite of what we saw from the Titans and the Valkyries, where they were both coming hot off of a win. Now, fighting for their first win of the weekend at the very least, but maybe a little bit more important for the Oni Warriors to try and keep themselves up there, because I believe with this win now, the Tartarus Titans, we can take a look at the standings. This should bump the Titans up to that definitive third spot. But the Oni Warriors, I believe, depending on what win they get out here, I think if they can get themselves a 2-0, will put themselves right back there and tied to stay in that top 4.
Yeah, there was only one set this week that went 2-1. The rest have all been 2-0, so some quick games, some definitive games, no doubt. But this should definitely be an interesting one. Standings ever the more important as the end of the phase comes near. So to see if the Oni Warriors are able to come back after a loss like that. And the Bolts, as you mentioned, would love to do the same. Definitely two different styles of teams. You know, they've been hot and they've been cold, and we're gonna get to see I assume the best of them pretty soon here.
Hopefully so. I mean, Olympus Bolts, even if the Bolts do end up losing this one to the Warriors, they should still remain at least in that second seed. So not as important for the Bolts necessarily to win, but still important to make sure that you can get a win, keep yourselves higher up in that standings, especially giving yourself a better chance, because next week the Bolts have to play the Titans, and then they've also got to play against the Kings. So not going to be the easiest kind of round out to the Olympus Bolts season at the least. So making sure to get a win over the Oni Warriors is going to be very important for them. Oni Warriors want to get themselves a bounce back after a loss to the Valkyries just prior on. So it's going to be, I think, a pretty sparks-flying match here, Trelly.
The sparks are going to be flying.
Sparks are going to be flying.
Yeah, I mean,
metal hitting metal.
Yeah, like clashing, understandable. Yeah, I mean, they're
Clash of the Titans.
You hope that they're both coming out. No, we just watched the Titans.
Oh, true.
No, there's going to be clash of the Bolts and the Warriors. But you hope that they come out swinging, right? I mean, it's not one of those sets where you imagine, because they're both coming off a loss, right? If you're coming off a win, it's okay to play it slow in the early. When you're coming off a loss, you expect high action early, looking for those early ganks, and I think both of these junglers play that same sort of style.
And actually, even looking over at the Oni Warriors schedule for their last two, it's Jade Dragons and the Camelot Kings as well. So Kings are going to be facing off against both these teams next week. So very important for these teams to be able to find themselves a win today, and that way they can put themselves that much closer to kind of securing their seeds as the remainder of these weeks go on, making sure that they can keep themselves at the top of the standings, because Masters is right around the corner, Charlie. That's a 2-week event that's going to take place between the SPL teams and the top of the SCC teams as well. So who's going to get that last win of the weekend? Will it be the Warriors? Will it be the Bolts? We'll find out right after this break.
Then what is stopping us from just throwing ourselves off a bridge and giving up and saying, yeah, the planet is dying, the government hates us, the animals are leaving, the aliens aren't contacting us, we might be alone, it just might be you and me, but that's okay, because you really